Hello, everyone. We're going to get the session started formally now. My name is Robin Anderson. I'm the Director General of the Private Sector Mechanism of the UN Committee on Food Security. And this is our North America and Pacific Youth Dialogue. It's an absolute pleasure to have all of you here because the UN Committee on Food Security is currently negotiating policy guidelines that are meant to be used the world over to promote youth engagement and employment in agriculture and food systems. Our food systems have never been more in need of a fresh generation of talent. We are here today to discuss the exciting initiatives in the region and to think about the common themes that could help youth find a future in the food and agriculture sector. To start, we'll just put up a light housekeeping PowerPoint. I want you to note that the event is being recorded. We would also like to inform you that there is interpretation available, and you may activate it at any time by clicking the planet logo at the bottom of your screen and select your channel. When entering the call, please ensure your name appears clearly. Otherwise, use the rename function on the participants list. If you use that 1 hour reminder, you have a generic events contact, so you'll be appearing as event guest. So if you could just change your name, and we'd love to see you throughout, so feel free to leave your videos on if you can. As of now, you're all muted, but we will activate your microphone if you're putting forward a question, as we want this session to be as interactive as possible. Please raise your electronic hand if you wish to intervene. That button's on the bottom with reactions. We also encourage you to introduce yourself and share your stories in chat right off here at the start. Feel free to share an email, a LinkedIn, an Instagram, a Twitter account. We want you all to be able to be in touch with each other across the big pond and to feel like you're part of a community. So share what you're comfortable with and feel free to keep your questions and thoughts flowing in the chat throughout the call. We do have measures in place to help maintain the integrity of the call. So if there is a disturbance, please bear with us and we'll restore order shortly. And thank you again for joining this dialogue. It's my pleasure to start off by introducing our moderator for today. Mr. Matt Armstrong is the Evaluation Officer at the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research. Matt, I'm coming to you from Ottawa, the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe and Algonquin Nation. I think you too are coming from special lands.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. It's commonplace in Australia for people who aren't familiar to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we meet, and recognizing that we are across the world today. But here in Canberra, Australia, I'm on Ngunnawal and Ngambri land, and we have a lot of people coming from across Australia as well. So we pay respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. And I just want to respect their continued connection with the land. In Australia, they have lived here for over 65,000 years, which makes them the longest continuing culture in the world. And it's time that we recognise their role and listen to the voices of young people as well in Indigenous communities across Australia and the world on matters of agriculture, food security, sustainability and resilience. So thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you, Matt. And we're joined now by Rick White, the president of the Canadian Canola Growers Association and also the chair of the International Agri-Food Network and the Private Sector Mechanism. Rick, over to you.
And thank you very much, Robin, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's really our hope that today's session will provide information and links to resources available and to encourage you to promote youth engagement and employment in agriculture and food systems. I would also like to remind everyone of some of the excellent work of the UN Committee on World Food Security, including the voluntary guidelines on governance of tenure, responsible agricultural investment, and on food security and nutrition. There are some links in the chat to the CFS guidelines, so have a look there, and it will take you right there. I would like to acknowledge the member states who have joined us today and the leaders in youth engagement. So a big thank you for attending today. I invite you all to introduce yourself in chat, and please feel free to share where you're joining us from and highlight some of the initiatives promoting youth engagement and employment in agriculture and food systems. I do encourage the conversation to keep going and invite any questions to be posted in the chat as the discussion emerges. We will look at each during our dialogue, and this dialogue, which is the fourth in a series of regional dialogues, will be organized around two segments. The first segment will focus on mentoring talent, and the second will focus on employment in food and agriculture. So to moderate this session, it is my pleasure to hand Mr. Matt Armstrong, who is the Evaluation Officer at the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research. It's my pleasure to hand it over to you, Matt. Matt, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rick. So the format is we'll listen to 4 short case study videos. So we might get straight into those, and then we'll have a panel discussion with representatives from a few of those organisations. So the first case study is from Nuffield, Australia, on the AgCard project, Tasmania, Australia. So should we play that video to start with?
Hi everyone, I'm Claire Peltzer from Tasmania, Australia. I'm a prime lamb producer on our family-owned farm. In 2019, I was awarded a Nuffield Farm Scholarship. This enabled me to travel to 14 countries around the world to explore attracting youth into a career in agriculture. On returning, Primary Employers Tasmania provided me with the project officer role of AgCard. Launching in July 2020, we've had over 2,100 users. 51% are secondary and tertiary students from farming and non-farming backgrounds. This tool not only prepares those entering the ag industry, but provides an insight into the jobs available, such as in the shearing shed in the wool harvesting unit. We invite you to explore AgCard as a tool to encourage youth to consider a career in agriculture. Thank you.
Apologies for the delay there. So the second case study is from the World Food Prize Foundation youth programs. So we have a video from them as well.
Hello, my name is Morgan Day, and I'm the Director of Global Youth Programs and Partnerships of the World Food Prize. I'm so excited to talk to you a little bit more about how our organization helps to advance the future of young people in the fields of food and agriculture. Food is the moral right of all who are born into this world. That quote is from the founder of the World Food Prize Foundation, Dr. Norman Borlaug. Dr. Borlaug was the father of the Green Revolution, and he won the 1970 Nobel Peace Prize for his work in implementing different types of wheat varieties and other crops in a way that helped save more lives than any man who has ever lived. In founding the World Food Prize, Dr. Borlaug set forward the following mission: to elevate innovation and inspire action to sustainably increase the quality, quantity, and availability of food for all. Dr. Borlaug, through his work and through the work of all of our laureates, do this every day. And in particular, the place where I get to work on this the most is with our young people. The World Food Prize youth programs help elevate young leaders through several different programs, including our youth institutes. Across the United States, around the world, we have these programs that are listed here in the slides are our dedicated programs. We also engage students around the world to excite them and get their participation in our youth institute. So what is a youth institute? A youth institute is an opportunity for a young person to explore a global food security topic and to explore a different country than their own by writing our Global Challenge research paper. During the events, which we host in partnership with land-grant universities in the United States and with agriculturally focused universities and colleges across the globe, students participate in roundtables and hands-on immersive activities that help them see themselves in the field. The thing that I find to be the biggest success in our programs is whether students move forward to choose a career in food security or not, they see themselves as leaders today. And because of the empowering nature of our programs, many students actually do choose to move forward to select college majors or other career paths that are focused on food security and agriculture. I'm really excited to be able to speak more with you all during the Global Youth Forum coming up this week. And please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can also find more information about our programs at worldfoodprize.org/youth. Thanks very much.
We will get to hear more from Morgan in a moment, so I'm looking forward to that. And then we have a video from 4-H USA on AgriScience Summit Workforce Development Program. So let's play that video.
Hi everyone, my name is Beth Hecht. I work for National 4-H Council in the United States of America. National 4-H Council is the partner to Cooperative Extension's 4-H program and the United States Department of Agriculture. One of my favorite parts of my job is the work we do to inspire all young people to pursue their passion and careers in agriculture. We do this in partnership with generous corporate donors and land-grant universities, including HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. Today, I'm excited to share a short video we created about this year's National 4-H Youth Summit on AgriScience, which includes a thank you from an HBCU delegation to our partners at Bayer.
Hello, and thank you so much. On the behalf of Lincoln University, we want to say thank you to Bayer and all of its leadership for your generous contribution to Lincoln University, helping us to bring young people from all across our state to Washington, D.C. to have an experience of a lifetime. We know that young people having opportunities like these will expand their capacity and allow them to be the next generation of leaders that we know that we need. So thank you to you and to all of your administration for making their reality and this dream a success for us all. Thank you so much.
And lastly, before we get the conversation going, we have the Canadian Cattlemen Association on the Cattlemen Young Leaders Mentorship Program. So let's listen to the last one.
It took me 2 times in order to get into CYL. I was pretty young when I applied first time in university, and I had kind of an idea of what I wanted to get out of a mentorship experience, but maybe not some specifics. And so when 2 years later, I knew exactly what I wanted and I applied and I made it all the way. And I remember getting there the second time, and you're meeting people, like-minded people from across the country, and it can be really intimidating because everyone's really impressive. It's a bit daunting, but I just sort of stuck to, what I want to get out of it, and, you know, let my sort of passion for the industry and knowledge of the industry kind of shine through in the roundtable discussions, and I got it. And so for me, the experience was so much, it meant so much more because I had to work hard to get it.
I was so impressed with the beef industry. I think a lot of people saw that unless we get people interested, or unless we groom some of these young people to want to be a part of it, then we're going to be in a pickle.
The CYL program, well, come on. Like that's the Cadillac of mentorship programs in Canadian agriculture. It is so good.
There's sort of two components of the CYL program. There is the mentorship component with your mentor, and then there's the industry development component as well. And so the mentorship component and the exposure to the sector for that 8 to 9 months, it's kind of that full immersion during that time. But once you have made those connections, it just keeps spiraling, and all these opportunities just keep coming even after you've graduated.
You are being matched with somebody who is eager to learn and eager to advance something in an area that I am interested. You might be able to help them, and that is quite rewarding. But you know what? There's another part. And that is, it allows nostalgia to come back, and you get a chance to go back and kind of relive this. That is fun when you can use your network to be able to help them grow, and they want to grow.
I truly do believe the Cattlemen's Young Leaders Program was a part of a great succession plan. I applaud each and every one of those mentors for the time and efforts that they made, and thank them for making the beef industry what it is today.
All right, awesome. So we have a few panelists, which I'd like to introduce them. You may have seen them already in our videos, but we'll reintroduce them. So we have Beth Hecht, is the account manager for corporate agriculture partnerships for National 4-H in the US. So welcome. We have Morgan Day, which we saw from the World Food Prize Foundation. Claire Peltzer, who's a Nuffield scholar from Tasmania, welcome as well. And Jessica Radow, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from the Youth Leadership, who's a Youth Leadership Coordinator for the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. So welcome all of you. For starters, I believe we have a question from someone who wanted to kick off the conversation. I think it's you, Cassie.
Hi, thanks so much for having this dialogue today. It's been really interesting already just to see what everyone is up to. My question, just to start off, is do you believe that more coordination is required between different youth mentoring organizations? And if so, what do you think that this could look like? What are the different possibilities that you think could be effective in engaging and mentoring more young people?
Did anyone want to volunteer to start off? Morgan seemed like you've got yourself muted.
I'm happy to jump in. It looks like Beth unmuted too, so I'll take a first stab. I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. The very challenging thing we face, and that probably you young folks who are on the call face, agriculture and food security work spans across so many different stakeholder groups, so many interests, and so many different ways that you can get plugged in that in some cases it's difficult to understand what the best mechanism might be. So a good thing for us to think about with each other. I'll say for our part, our organization really enjoys partnerships with lots of different peer institutions like 4-H, like Manners in the United States as well. But but I think that we could certainly do a better job of bridging those gaps and also finding ways for us to pool our resources and our mentorship abilities. So thanks for the good question.
Beth, you had something to say?
Yeah, thanks. Sure, I'll just tag on to what Morgan said. I think there's a piece there. I definitely agree everything that Morgan said, that yes, there's a huge opportunity there. I think a piece of it that we're a challenge that we're up against with that is getting the mentor to realize how valuable their skills, their knowledge, I don't want to say expertise because that's a little intimidating sometimes, but their knowledge, their background, their life experiences, how valuable those are to the young people. Because sometimes, I'll even say, I don't have anything to contribute. I'm not the expert, but getting them to realize that you have the life experiences and you can influence young people and just expose them to new opportunities. And whether it's wisdom or a career path, whatever it is, it's empowering that mentor to realize the difference that they can make. It doesn't have to be a 12-month commitment either. It comes in different shapes and sizes.
I'm interested on that point. Oh, did anyone else? Sorry, go ahead, Jessica.
No, that's okay. I was just going to jump in there as well. And I think that's an excellent point and something that's definitely a goal in what we strive to do. And one of the goals with our mentorship program is also how are we building those peer connections between people internationally or between sectors? Because if we can form those relationships and friendships now, those are going to be the same people that are sitting at those boardroom tables and taking on those leadership roles. So if we can establish that early on, we're really just making a powerful pathway to future growth and success.
Awesome. So I was just interested to hear what your personal experience was with mentorship, and what do you think made it productive, or what was your critical feedback of that experience, either being a mentor or being a mentee, as it were. Did Claire, you haven't spoken yet. Would you like to contribute something on that?
I think I haven't really had both ways. Like, I've been a little bit of a mentee in my own right. I'm working on a farm at the moment with my family, but having come from I was doing an education degree, and then to have the confidence to come back to the farm and actually be, a female farmer is definitely something which is it's getting better, I think. But I think we're still a little bit behind the 8 ball in what females can contribute to on farms. So I think sort of I've been mentored in that sense. And then I think now being actually being a mentee to other female farmers coming back into any farming aspect and just what they can actually contribute. So I think being out and about, going to all of the different day events that are on in your local community, I think is really important, and just being open and willing to talk to as many people as possible, I think, rather than just hiding at home. I think that's a really important aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. Did someone else want to share their experience?
I'm happy to jump in. I'm lucky in my life to have many folks who I've gained knowledge and empowerment and all the above in mentee roles. I think that the reason that I get excited to support the youth programs of the World Food Prize is that I remember that light bulb moment for me in working with a mentor, where I understood, oh my gosh, you mean that I can work in the field of food and agriculture? I come from a suburban kid background. I didn't grow up on a farm. This is all kind of new territory for me. I just knew that I wanted to make the world a better place. And lo and behold, I found myself working on food and agriculture issues. So without the support of mentors, helping me understand what my own unique interests and unique talents are, I don't know that I would have found myself in this position. But I think moreover, what's of value to me in engaging the students who we work with throughout all of the youth institutes around the world is not that I'm going trick them into getting into this field. It's that I'm going to hopefully ignite in them a passion and give them the tools that they need to go out into the world and do something that's meaningful to them. So whether that's in food and agriculture, which we are all here are hoping that it is, that's great. But if it's not, that they see themselves as leaders and as folks who have something to say and are able to do something right now. They don't need to wait until they're older, until an adult gives them permission to do that. So that's how I view my role as a mentor and overall the place that our programs can play.
I wonder, Morgan, on that is that there's kind of a mutual benefit that can be identified. I'm wondering, have you had
absolutely
much of an experience there?
Yeah, literally, it sounds like platitudes, but every single youth institute that we get to engage in, I feel like the frustration, the excitement, the idealism that the young people who participate, the young scholars who participate in our programs bring, helps reignite my own passion and reorient me to the work that I already care so much about. And so it's super lucky in that way. In addition, these students are so smart. Like, I can't imagine being as advanced in my understanding of, like, whether it's science, technology, math questions, whether it's their deep understanding of what it takes to feed the world from their own experiences. I just feel like I learned so much from our students. So yeah, it's absolutely beneficial both ways.
My understanding as well, I think I missed, someone had a question. Wayne, did you have a question that you wanted to ask? Oh, you're muted still, Wayne. Would someone be able to unmute? Yep. Oh, that's great.
Sorry, I had a technical issue. Yeah, I'd like to follow on from Cassie's question. As usual, she was first off the mark, way ahead of me, but she took half of my question. There obviously seems to need to be greater collaboration between mentoring programs. Given the policy recommendations the CFS is currently undertaking, I'm curious what the panel's thoughts are on what better policies could be developed at national government and international level to help facilitate this.
Did that question speak to anyone that wanted to just, Morgan was nodding.
I feel bad. I don't want to be the one jumping the gun every time. I think the main thing, Wayne, our governments have to invest in agriculture, period, and in food systems work, period. And in order for us to invest then in youth engagement, to make that happen as a support of the sector overall, I think just starting there would be a great focus for national governments.
Yeah, and I'd echo Morgan's thoughts there. And I think, which maybe I need to be more aware and do some research, but when I look at it, my youth leadership coordinator position specific in the beef industry, I don't necessarily see that in other sectors of, an equivalent I could reach out to, and we can be more collaborative that way. And it is pretty administratively heavy and needing the funding for that kind of staff support or to put on these types of programs. So I think any funding is always welcomed and will go a long way in ensuring that collaboration and creating more capacity for these types of opportunities in the industry.
Awesome. Did someone else have any comments on that?
I'll just quickly comment, Matt. Sorry, Beth.
Go ahead.
I'll just quickly comment and say, like, we here in Australia, ag education isn't supported in the schools, and so that's pretty much for us. That's where we're hoping to aim our energies to, rather than having individual RDCs sort of trying to do their own youth programs. The ag education in Australia, we sort of had curriculum changes, and they, supposedly ag education's in there, but unfortunately it's a really weak connection between what actually happens on farms. And until ag education is supported in schools, and that does come from both sides, it needs to come from the education side, recognising agriculture is a really good tool to actually encourage, also, like, we understand that you can bring pretty much every single subject in under agriculture. But also at the other side, it does need to be supported by the Australian, like essentially the Australian farmers. They need to recognise that your workers aren't just going to end up in your door anymore. You're going to have to put a bit of effort into that as well. So I think it just needs that, that true collaboration, which is what we're always aiming for.
And of course, farming and learning about agriculture isn't just important for if you want to work in agriculture. It's a big part of our understanding of food systems is so important. Beth, you had something to say.
Yes, I would just, Claire led right into where I was going in my mind. As we're talking about government, but I think there's also that responsibility within the industry, that we just can't sit back. Being in the industry, we have a responsibility to keep it vibrant and keeping that pipeline of employees coming in with innovations. So there's a responsibility that the industry has in that education as well.
We have a question from Janya. Did you want to just introduce yourself as well and just give us a quick introduction to your point of view for this?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Janaya Green, and I am currently a student at Florida State University studying in plant science with a concentration in biotechnology. I am the National 4-H Youth in Action 2020 Agriculture Pillar winner. And here on the panel, what I serve as, I was the farm manager for the Village Community Garden, which advocated for fresh and healthy foods for the people in the community. The only question that I have for you all on the panel is, how would you think about going about advocating for youth and adult partnerships? Because that is something that is very important. Since I have been working with the community for a very long time, that is something that I am very big on. So how would you all go about building the youth and adult partnerships?
Yes.
I'll jump into that. Janaya, good to see you. The youth and adult partnerships are the big backbone of the 4-H program. That's one of the huge pieces that we do. And I think it's all about vibrant communities, right? Having the volunteers, whether it's through an employer or it's a community volunteer, but being a part of that community with those youth. It's not just the parent and the kid, but it takes that community to raise a kid, to raise our kids together. And so creating those opportunities where the youth and adults can both be at the table together, whether that's in the boardroom kind of a thing, or it's during, a simple activities where kids and youth, they're together. Parents aren't just, the adults aren't just seen as the classroom teacher, but they're the learner right side by side with those youth. That to me is where we start to develop our partnerships.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point and so important. As we look at that complex relationship of mentorship, which was touched on a little bit before, but it's also how can we communicate to mentors and this adult generation as well, that there's many benefits through that two-sided mentoring relationship where young people are providing a lens and insight on some of these current industry challenges and opportunities. So I think, formal mentorship programs that are out there are a great way to foster these relationships. But I think it's also, how are we looking at informally mentoring and providing those opportunities? When I was new to the beef industry, I'll never forget when one of our past presidents of the Canadian Cattlemen's Association came over to shy me at the coffee table and showed a real interest in what I was doing and invited me to literally sit with them at the table. And I think those little opportunities can go a long way in shaping the next generation.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
I totally agree with you, Jess. I think it is really important, but I think we need to empower those, the actual adults we'll call it in that little partnership there, because they don't really recognize, well, some don't recognize what they're actually capable of. So I think it's actually saying that you are the professional and you do have so much to give. And I think, so I think it's recognizing the people that might be keen and then trying to empower them and provide them with the skills so they can be a really good mentor as well. And because it's quite a daunting thing, because you don't know how long you're going to be a mentor for. And so it's just sort of providing some structures around that.
It's quite a challenging dynamic actually for young people in a mentoring or professional role, because on one hand, and I feel that as a young person as well, is that I feel like I don't know anything at all. There's so much to know and there's so much to learn. And on the other hand, it is important that young people have a role and a say. How do you see navigating that balance? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think speaking back even to the original question is like, how do we build these meaningful relationships between young people and adults? Our food systems, our success or failure, we know that young folks are going to be either saddled with our failure or going to benefit from the successes that we have, whether that's an industry or a non-governmental organization or as political actors, in our ability to fix these systems, right? And so even though an adult might have more of the lived experience or learning or just opportunities, professional opportunities under their belt, I think it also has to do with what we value in terms of experience, right? So a young person's lived experience and the idea that they're going to have to deal with these issues that are unsolved by the time that they get to some of the decision-making positions, it's critical that we center the voices of those who are going to be most impacted by our success or our failure. And in that way, it's easy for me to think about matching up young people with adults. And that's one of the things I love about our programs. We also help, part of that mentorship aspect is making sure that students see themselves on the same level with the adult experts that we have in the room, right? So you have something that's valuable to contribute in the same way that a professor on a campus or somebody who works with the United Nations or who's doing really great work out in the field, you're on that same level with those folks. So I think that kind of shifting the way that we're thinking about what that value and that power structure and dynamic can look like is core to that.
And just one last comment. I was just thinking about a program that we do have here in Australia, and it's really just it's only quite small, and it's actually called Cultivate Farms. And what they're trying to do is you've got retiring farmers, and they're trying to connect them with the inspiring farmers and investors. And I thought I really liked that collaboration, because you do have some retiring farmers that might not have the succession plan in place that their family is going to take it over, but they do have so much wealth. Like, this is talking grassroots, but they have so much wealth of knowledge of actually how that farm works, and then they don't want to see it sold. So I quite like that collaboration too, where it's actually, you're working together on a common goal. So sorry, just a little point.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about mentorship, as you mentioned, is that there is that natural relationships of the guidance being provided by the mentor that kind of naturally strikes that balance of, giving them the reins and opportunities to explore their ideas, but also helping them out a bit. And I think, as well as what's interesting is just how impressive the next generation is that, sometimes most of the time what they're saying is, like, that's right on, and we just need to support them. So a lot of mentoring too is just making sure they have somebody in their corner, encouraging them to speak up and building their confidence and making sure they have those opportunities to have their voices heard with that right guidance.
Beth, you've unmuted.
Yeah, I didn't want to ignore. One of the things, just real quick, one of the things that we're starting to see from National 4-H Council with some of our ag partners is some of the corporations that we work with, they're developing a formal employee give back days, I guess. It's called different things, but basically where the employer is going to pay the employee for time where they'll spend mentoring right? And whatever that might look like, volunteering, working with young people in their community. So they're ultimately trying to get them to invest into that younger generation, whether it's bringing them in to understand what their company's about, or just being a part of the community and working on a project together in the area. So we're starting to see more and more of that, just more of a formal piece where they're giving that permission to say of employees to mentor, to develop that relationship with young people.
We already touched on this a moment ago when Claire brought it up, but I just realized that all of this panel are women, and I'm wondering if anyone has any comments specifically about mentoring women or being a mentee as a woman, and how that experience might be different or needs extra consideration. Morgan.
I'm happy to jump in. Well, I think, in the field of like anti-poverty work and in food security work in the United States, I've really seen that the majority of my colleagues are women, actually. So that's really an interesting thing that I've noted. I think also within the space of ag education, many teachers are women as well. So that's an interesting component. I think in particular, though, just working within the agriculture sector writ large, which I know that all three of my fellow panelists could speak to much more on a much deeper level than I can. The many young women I find have imposter syndrome about their place in being at the table. They apologize a little bit too much. They're not sure if they're supposed to be here. And what I like to tell young women especially, but also many of the students who we get to work with are from minority, Black and Brown communities as well. I tell those students that if you're in the room, you have a seat at the table. You're meant to be there. And so to excite those students and to help themselves have that confidence to participate and to see themselves as already a part of that community, whether or not they're feeling that is one thing. I also think there's a lot more work we have to do to actually make the space of agriculture and food systems work more inclusive and more just more equitable, not only along gender lines.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen through mentorship through the Cattlemen's Young Leaders program is since the program was established in 2010, we've had 150 graduates. And of those 150 graduates, 60% have been young women. And it's really inspiring to see them go on to not only sit on boards, they're the board chairs. They're taking on these different roles and leading projects, and young women that are leaders in their communities on farms and ranches where they're setting examples with their new innovative practices they're taking home from what they've learned through these mentorship experiences, and sharing that information with the community. So I think, the agriculture industry is an exciting one for the way we've seen women represented. And I think there's, lots of work to do, and hopefully see that representation continue and help them with these skills to get into those important roles.
I had an interesting experience recently. I'm on the Central Committee, which if you're in Australia, wasn't intended to be a plug, but I'll do it, for an organization called RAID, which is Researchers in Agriculture for International Development. And I have found the experience of the peer-to-peer interaction as a way of supporting my mentorship, or, more senior to my experiences in terms of, confidence, but also how to navigate those relationships. Does anyone have any experience or comment on that?
I don't mean to be hogging the mic here, so you can kick me off.
No, go for it.
But I think through my experience, I got to be a participant of the Cattlemen's Young Leaders program first, and the participants were national, from coast to coast in Canada. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's often a part of mentorship that we forget is that relationship, and it's so important. And I think, drawing on people from different areas of the supply chain that it's bringing together and having those people and contacts to call on in the future is really important. And I think even as, mental health as being such a big topic in agriculture now, which is important, we need to bring a light to, is that we're having people with shared experiences build that network together where they feel there's a safe space to share the challenges and what they're going through. So I think that's certainly a part of the relationship we need to continue to prioritize.
It was a bit of a long-winded.
Great success.
Sorry, just go ahead, Beth.
Just a quick note, we saw great success with that in our AgriScience Summit that we showcased earlier this year. Trying to do the schedule, there's a little bit of time. What do you do? Well, let's just put them at roundtables and provide some general questions, right? And these are 300 and some youth from across the United States. So agriculture looks quite different from one corner to the other. And a lot of them, most of them, they see that maybe online, but for them to know somebody that does maple syrup, wow, that's just blows their mind. In high school, they just didn't know what it really takes. And so I can give you many of those examples, but just that opportunity to talk and to interact with one another. And it goes beyond just the agriculture, Jessica, like you said, is shared experience. And the more I know about you, the less chance I'm going to hurt you, kind of a thing. And so that opportunity for those young people to connect and really have some great dialogue is just priceless.
Did anyone else have anything to comment? Claire, I think you unmuted before. Did you want to?
Yeah, I'll just quickly discuss the Nuffield Farm Scholarship, which is an international program, which actually is not necessarily youth, but just like, I think after youth, you've sort of got there's a bit of a gap. And I think that those partnerships of people within, like in that age or experience group, I think that's also really powerful. And so the Nuffield Farm Scholarship is, I think we've got 12 plus countries now involved. And when we got together, it was the same kind of thing as what Beth's talking about with 4-H. Like you just sat there and it's like, oh my gosh, but they were on the other side of the world and they're doing something. But it was just like networking is just so powerful. And that collaboration really does remind you that you're a small part of a big picture. And I think that's really important in agriculture. Like I work on a family-run farm. There's 4 of us. 3 of them are my, my relationship, father and brother. And so I quite like every once in a while to sort of, just remembering that, yeah, there's a lot of people out there. And again, we produce like prime lamb. So once it goes on the truck, you want to know what happens afterwards as well, which is, in the red meat game. So yeah, I think all networking of all ages, I think we all know how powerful it is.
That is a great point to move on to the next session. So I thank you all so much for your contribution to the panel today. We will get another opportunity to hear from you right at the end, but thank you very much. We have a presentation from Carolina Pulido. I think it's a video, or is it? I think it's just a presentation.
Carolina here. Carolina is coming to us live, and she's going to tell us all about the World Food Forum.
Does the magical tech wizards want to take the spotlight for her?
There we go. Carolina.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for this invitation. Just give me a second. I will be sharing my screen. Just bear with me. I have a couple of things open. I hope you can see now. Just we'll make it a bit bigger now, sorry. Okay, is it okay? Can you see?
We can see, that's great, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much again, Mr. Armstrong, for this invitation, and all of you for being here. And I wish I had the opportunity also to intervene just before. It was extremely useful to hear your insights on mentorship, especially being a woman and in agri-food systems. But I think this is something we will get to discuss after. And as you can see here, I'm here to talk to you about the World Food Forum. I don't know if I'm curious to know if some of you know about the existence of the World Food Forum. Perhaps in the chat you can write it and I can check after. But basically, the World Food Forum was launched last year as an independent youth-led network of partners that is facilitated by FAO, so the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. So it aims to spark a global movement of young people everywhere that are interested in transforming our agri-food systems and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, especially zero hunger. So we are the premier, or we like to think that we are the premier global forum to harness this passion of young individuals in terms of agri-food systems. And what we do is to try to give young people a voice and put them at the same level of bigger leaders, for example, at FAO or other UN organizations, so that their solutions and their voices are heard. We are convinced that food is the single strongest lever to optimize human health and environmental sustainability on Earth. So in the last couple of years, we've been hearing about health everywhere with the pandemic. We want to put the accent to the fact that without food, there can be no health. And we are convinced that young people are not the future. We believe that they are, and let me include myself in that group. We are the present, and this is what we want to give a platform for our voices to be heard. So here you can see kind of an overview of the initiatives of the forum. So basically last year, or ever since last year, we have brought together more than 40,000 young or young at heart individuals from around the world. And what we do is unite them over these solution tracks that you can see here, or activities that you can see here. So starting from the bottom, and here is the culture, and maybe the easiest one to explain because it is what unites us around art. So we had a concert during the, several concerts actually, during the last year flagship event with songs that were made all around, for example, what we call the fours, which are better production, better nutrition, better environment, and a better life. So all around these messages that really are supporting the achievement of the SDGs through actions that we can take every day. Also, we had a film competition, and we had culinary activities with chefs from different countries that were, for example, teaching us practices on how to reduce food waste at home. Then on the top of the presentation, you will see kind of the solution tracks. So on the left, we have the Youth Action Track, which is kind of the political arm of the World Food Forum. So here we have youth leaders that are providing their solutions very policy oriented, and that they are united through an Youth Action Assembly and Policy Compendia, where they gather these solutions and these proposals that are both local and adapted to their context, but also global. So again, maybe after this meeting, it is a good moment to share some of the conclusions that we arrived to last year. Then we have education. We are convinced that these food education should start at school, so for school-age children, and we want to make sure that teachers are putting the accent to the importance of agri-food systems. We want to make them fall in love with agriculture. Sadly, it's not many youth that are now in farms. They are leaving. I'm here in Colombia now. They are coming to the cities, and we want this to change. We want them to fall in love with agriculture and go back. And we believe that these falling in love with agriculture again comes when you're young and at school. So we work with school-age children for that. And last but not least, we have innovation, which is the track that I am leading. Here we have different challenges. For example, right now we have the Transformative Research Challenge, which is addressed to university students and researchers, and we invite them to send us their innovative idea or solution to transform our agri-food systems. So this challenge was launched last year. It was extremely successful. We had really participants from all the regions represented. And this year we're launching it again. We also have a startup competition that is for innovators that are already at a more advanced stage, maybe have been through 1 or 2 rounds of funding. And here we do another competition as well to make sure that they get the right visibility and hopefully investment for their ideas. And we also have master classes, which are kind of TED Talk episodes or meetings where we have an expert or a couple of experts teaching something and sharing an idea that is inspiring around, again, agri-food systems transformation. Here, just to give you the context and the theme of the year. So we know that agri-food systems contribute to 1/3 to the total greenhouse emissions. And we know that there are paradoxes around, for example, the healthy diets that are financially out of reach for more than 3 billion people. But at the same time, we have like 30% of the population of the world who is overweight or obese. So we know that here there is a huge gap, that these numbers are unacceptable, and that there is a huge link between healthy diets and achieving these healthy planets. So this is the theme of the year. And I know I only had 4 minutes, so just to give you an overview of what the forum will look like, we will have our flagship event in October. So I think it's the 3rd week of October, where we're going to be having all of these, the Youth Action Compendium, and we're also going to have the Innovation Awards for the Transformative Research Challenge and the Startup Competition. But I think overall, I try to explain the forum in a nutshell and let you know that we're here on the same page. What we want to do is highlight the ideas of youth, make sure that we have a voice, that it is heard, and widely invite you to join us, to join this movement of transformation of our agri-food systems. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolina. And I'm looking forward to learning about that more. We'll follow up about this after this. So we have another panel joining us. So we've got 3 awesome people joining us who I'm really looking forward to listening to as well. So we have Christopher Anderson, who is from 4-H, the Maryland program, Sarah Van Heeswick from 4-H Canada, and Corinne Callis, who is the Senior Director of Knowledge, Learning and Education at IFT. Warm welcome to our panelists. I just want to give a reminder of everyone that I'd love to have lots of questions in the chat, or feel free to put your hand up and we'll invite you to speak or ask your question directly. So it'd be really awesome to have that. To start with, I think we have Shayla on the line for the first question.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Shayla Worms. I work with Agriculture in the Classroom Canada as their Think Ag manager. So Agriculture in the Classroom Canada is a charitable organization with a vision to bring agriculture to every classroom and inspire every student. Through our 10 provincial member organizations, we develop and deliver agriculture education through accurate, balanced, and current curriculum-linked resources, programs, and initiatives for educators and students at all grade levels. So my question today is, we know that inspiring youth and making them aware of the many careers that exist within our multifaceted ag industry and dynamic food system is of utmost importance. We've heard it a lot today. At Ag in the Classroom Canada, one of the key messages we believe in instilling within Canadian youth is that obviously, no matter your interests, your skills, or your background, that there's a place in agriculture for you. This said, when it comes to embarking on our career journeys as young people, even with post-secondary schooling under our belts, it's very often communicated in job postings and the like that several years of experience are required to be a suitable candidate for a position. So ultimately, question being, what can the industry do and what can educational institutes do to ensure that youth feel there are no barriers to entry once their interest in agriculture is piqued?
That is a great question and something that I can relate to. Did one of our panelists want to respond to that question? And then we will go back and listen to the case study videos.
Great, Matt. Well, let's just call up our next panel, Chris, etc., and we'll just double back to those videos, answer Shayla's question, and just bear with us one moment. There we go. Great. Chris, do you have any answer to Shayla's question and anything similar to ag in a classroom in the US?
I didn't get to hear her entire question, but yes, we do have something ag in the classroom type of projects here in the US. I think that the compilation with our ag community that is out providing that education in partnership with a variety of youth development organizations like 4-H and FFA does help provide some of those opportunities. But again, I apologize, I wasn't able to hear your entire question.
I can ask it again if that is okay.
Sure. Do you mind if we just go back to the videos and we will make sure the questions answered properly in the panel? Those my bad, apologies. So we've got a couple more videos just on these things connected to our panelists, just so that we have a bit of an introduction into where they come from. So the first one is from 4-H Canada on engaging 4-H youth members. Thank you.
AgriCareer Quest is a program designed to introduce youth ages 16 to 22 to career opportunities in agriculture and food, and help them develop career skills that will help them find and secure their career of choice. The program is delivered as a public-private partnership between the BC Ministry of Agriculture and Food and 4-H British Columbia. The program was first developed in 2007. Since its launch, it has run every 2 years and so far has impacted a total of 262 youth. Over the 6-day program, delegates travel via charter bus throughout the southern half of BC, exploring a variety of agriculture and food careers and participating in a series of career development sessions. The majority of participants are members of the 4-H program, but there are some seats reserved for non-4-H members as well. Our goal is to explore many different types of agriculture and food careers in order to broaden the horizons of everyone who attends, regardless of their previous agriculture experience. We survey participants about the type of agriculture careers that they might be interested in. The most popular areas are typically animal science, management, ag education, ag tourism, and primary production. The career exploration portion of the program takes place through in-person and video tours of agriculture and agri-food businesses and networking sessions with ag and food professionals. We try to choose businesses that have a wide range of jobs available so we can learn about several different careers on a single tour. Participants are surveyed on their level of interest in considering a potential career in agriculture and/or food both before and after the program. The majority of participants have indicated a strong interest both before and after, which shows that our program is primarily attracting youth already interested in, or at least curious about, a career in agriculture. The career skills development portion of the program includes sessions on topics including resumes, job searches, cover letters, networking, and interviewing. Youth were surveyed both before and after the program on their level of confidence in these career skills. As you can see, the program increased participant confidence in these areas significantly. Additionally, more than 90% of participants agreed or strongly agreed that they felt better prepared for the workforce after participating in the program. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about AgriCareer Quest.
Awesome. And we've got the next one, which is from the Maryland State 4-H program. And so we'll watch their video as well.
Maryland 4-H is the youth development program of the University of Maryland Extension. Through 4-H, youth learn life skills from community-focused, research-based experiential education programs. One of Maryland 4-H's priorities is agricultural literacy and career readiness for youth. We appreciate this opportunity to highlight 4 programs under this initiative.
In partnership with National 4-H Council, University of Maryland Extension developed the 2021 National 4-H Ag Innovators Experience called Curbing Our Carbon Appetite. This program helps students discover and apply strategies to reduce atmospheric carbon and combat climate change. Last year, 183 trained teen facilitators delivered the program to more than 7,500 youth across 7 states and 7 international youth audiences. 79% of teen facilitators reported an increased interest in advocating for agricultural issues that affect our world today, and nearly 60% became more interested in pursuing an agricultural career.
Agsploration is a curriculum to increase student agricultural literacy and STEM skills. Topics include animal and plant agriculture, the environment, and technology use in agriculture. This program has been delivered to more than 49,000 individuals. Through a peer instruction model, 85% of trained teen teachers increase their ability and confidence to teach agriculture.
A new program titled Career Ag Experience is a curriculum to increase participants' knowledge of agricultural careers and important workplace skills. More than 10,000 youth from 38 states have participated in an overview session, condensed program, or the full program. 98% of participants surveyed indicated an increase in their awareness of agri-science careers.
George Washington Carver Day is a project using hands-on activities to introduce youth to agriculture and technology careers. More than 450 youth have explored the importance of agriculture as a branch of science, increased understanding of how agriculture is at the forefront of innovation, and learned how emerging technologies improve the quality of life versus society. Other Maryland 4-H programs that highlight agriculture careers include 4-H Animal Science Research Academy, Zoonosis Education Project, and 4-H Veterinary Science Program. In addition to these programs, the 4-H Community Club Experience engages thousands of youth in agricultural-related project work.
Awesome. And lastly, we have Seeding the Future Global Food System Challenge. It's a video from IFT.
How do we create a world where everyone has access to safe and nutritious food? Equitable, sustainable, affordable, delicious, trusted, always, for everyone. We call this our moonshot. Introducing the Seeding the Future Global Food System Challenge, initiated and funded by Seeding the Future Foundation and presented by the Institute of Food Technologists. Designed to inspire and reward passionate, diverse, and interdisciplinary teams from across the globe and propel their innovations to reduce hunger, advance nutrition, and improve planetary health. This is the challenge of our time, to transform our food system for the next generation. Join us in this challenge.
All right, thank you very much. So we have welcome our panelists back. So Chris, Sarah, and Corin, thank you so much for your contribution today. I just wanted to circle back quickly to Shayla's question, because she had a great question. We didn't get the chance to fully address that.
Yeah, for sure. So just jump in with the question again then.
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So basically was wondering what the industry can do and what educational institutes can do to ensure that youth feel there are no barriers to entry once their interest is piqued, and particularly because of all the initiatives that were just showcased. Obviously, they're reporting that they are interested as a result, but then oftentimes there are, the job postings that say we require 3 to 5 years experience, and there are certain barriers to entry, and just allowing for their comfort to be built. Anyone to jump in on that question?
Did anyone? Sarah?
Hi, Shayla. Shayla and I have worked together before on careers in agriculture here in Canada. I'm a strong believer in co-op programs through university. I know that's how I found my start in the agriculture industry, well, through the 4-H program as a youth, but then through university co-op programs. I know that we employ a lot of co-op students in our work at the Ministry of Agriculture and through 4-H, and I feel that it provides a little bit of that entry level experience. But to your point of the typical like 3 to 5, even if they graduate, even if they've been in co-op, they might not have that. I think it's really important for industry and employers to really think about creating some entry level positions to kind of help incubate that future talent that they're going to need. So I know we've really benefited from internships as well, and having some of those maybe temporary positions or shorter term positions that are just right for folks coming out of their education, and to allow them to build that base of experience so that they can be competitive in the industry for those longer term positions.
Did one of, yeah, Karen, would you like to?
Sure. So I think that the Institute of Food Technologists and the Global Food System Challenge is unique in the context of the presentations that we've seen today, primarily because this is a private foundation that is funding programs from all over the world. So we got applications from 900 different applications from over 60 nations, and many of the programs were actually community empowerment projects that were what I might call something like business in a box. So you have, say for example, solar power for solar drying or post-harvest cold storage, where you have community education on how to set up solar, how to maintain it, and then a social enterprise where you have a small amount of capital to buy panels, for example, and set up a local cold storage unit that turns into a business, so that you're not only serving the local farmers who need cold storage. This particular project was in sub-Saharan Africa, where cold storage is really important for post-harvest loss and waste. But it also empowered all kinds of community organizers and community members in the whole region to create these micro businesses with all of the tools, the technology, the training, the marketing, and market access to be able to create a business that already had a proven model and already has, you know, all of your marketing language and everything that you need to launch an enterprise that gives back to the community that you come from. And there were many, many examples. Solar power is only one of them. Vermiculture for fertilizer, for example, where communities are coming together to create the sort of seeds, the starter for the vermiculture, and then distribution, sales, etc., all along the value chain. So I think one option, of course, this program seems to be focusing more on universities and like school-based programming. One of the things that the Institute of Food Technologists with the foundation is working on are community-based, like social enterprise projects. That's not all. There's university and research institutes that have been funded as well, of course. And so, of course, you also get students who are learning to, say, for example, do gene editing. One of the projects that was funded was a gene editing project for rice variety that inhibits the uptake of arsenic in Nepal, which is really amazing. And then, of course, all of the students who are involved get the grant funding and get the experience and get the internships, et cetera. So I think that there's a lot of models that don't necessarily rely on a resume.
What I'm hearing from you, Karen, is that you know, one of the answers might be that young people are actually very capable, and you know, that giving them the opportunities is, you know, allows them to actually do the work, and that maybe 3 to 5 years of experience, you know, overkill in some cases. Is that if they can gene edit, I'm sure they can participate effectively in the food system.
I think the thing about the agri-food system is that there's actually a ton of technology that is being applied, and that has an open sort of space. I think that youth have a tendency to be more receptive to new technologies, and maybe wouldn't eschew the opportunity to work on an AI project. And more and more we're seeing alternative intelligence or machine learning or gene editing or cold plasma. I mean, there's just so many different applications. That's everything from feed to seed to harvest. There's lots of different places where you can enter depending upon where your interest lies. And I do think there's lots of opportunities in tech.
Thank you. I want to give Chris an opportunity to respond to this question, but I just want to remind everyone that if you have a great question, which I'm sure all of you do, please raise your hand so that we can, I know, and we can get around to you. Chris.
Yes, thank you, Matt. First of all, I do want to make mention that I'm joined today by our state 4-H program leader, Dr. Imani Fields, so she is here with us, as well as some of the project leads that were featured in the video. So we're joined by Thomas Hudson and Cheryl Bennett as well. And so as the questions roll through here during this segment, I would invite them to contribute to responses on the Maryland 4-H behalf as well. But I did just want to mention that the Maryland in and of itself, of course, is a state that partially surrounds Washington, D.C. So it is a growingly urban setting. It does have rural settings as well, but most people tend to think of Maryland as a very urban state. They might not recognize that agriculture is actually our #1 industry in our state. And I think that also people are maybe not aware of the scope and the variety of the careers that are in agriculture brings to the state as well. So not only are we talking about production, not only are we talking about agri-services, we're talking about food service, we're talking about policy making, we're talking about universities as well. So there are a variety of careers associated and linked to agriculture. And in this urban environment, we often get requests at our state 4-H office from people who are very far removed from agriculture that want to be a part of it. And so I think from the scope of the projects that we highlighted, it kind of illustrates that we're taking a multi-dimensional approach to offering opportunities to youth, all youth. And so that's what we're trying to look at. And as we get to speak about these projects more during this segment, I think that you'll see that we're bringing all of these ties to the potential career opportunities tied with agriculture through those. And also we're reaching a variety of audiences, those that are directly engaged in agriculture right now, and those that are very far removed from agriculture but see the importance and the value and the career opportunities.
Dr. Fields, I can see that you have something to contribute on this issue.
Sure, just wanted to add, so every 4-H program, of course, is connected to the land grant university in Maryland. We're the University of Maryland, College Park and Eastern Shore. And we have a program that other universities may have where they're 2-year and 4-year programs. For those who may not get directly into the 4-year program, there may have an opportunity in a 2-year program. The Institute of Applied Agriculture is one example of those. And it incorporates internship experience so that you're getting kind of on-the-job experience during your educational coursework. So there are many programs like that so that you are kind of having that opportunity of education with that hands-on learning in the workplace. So certainly encourage that. And one of the premier opportunities that we offer through 4-H are those hands-on learning experiences and expanding some of those internship and apprenticeship opportunities as well. And there are legislation in Maryland anyway, there's legislation to expand apprenticeship programs. And we're working closely with legislators right now to see how we can work together with the school system and policymakers to make sure 4-H is one of those places where apprenticeship opportunities might exist.
Thank you so much. I can see we have a question from Clayton. Do you want to just introduce yourself as well, just so that we know who you are?
Howdy, everyone. My name is Clayton Elbel, and I'm currently a junior agricultural economics student at Texas A&M University, studying policy and economic analysis in the food space. I've really liked the conversation around what I would call high impact experiences. I was in 4-H, I was in FFA, and I think that, my development as a leader was based on that learning outside of the classroom. I've been able to start my own nonprofit in college, connecting food retailers and farms with surplus produce to community food banks. Learning about supply chains and brokerages and food waste and all these really awesome experiences. So my question is, for students like myself interested in the food space, whether it's an internship or research or a service-based project or, starting their own business or working on the farm, what interpersonal competencies do you want to see after that project or that experience, so to speak, has been finished? I believe that when a student leaves a project satisfied, that's when the most results takes place. So, there's a lot of practical experiences, a lot of things learned, but what are the interpersonal competencies you want students to gain after their high impact experiences?
Corin, I know that you, go for it, Dr. Fields, if you've got.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's a great question. And I'm so proud of what you've been able to accomplish. And I'm happy to hear that 4-H and FFA kind of helped you along your journey for sure. You mentioned some experiences or interest in the area of food security. So I'll highlight that specific component and just recognize in 4-H especially, we do try to spend time understanding that the world is bigger than any one person, right? And this forum right now is kind of highlighting the importance of understanding the connections between people, between communities, between countries, and having that awareness of culture and of history of food insecurity and which communities have less access than others and why. And then the policies connected to those things are so critical. So understanding those technical skills are certainly important, but then understanding the history and cultures within the food system in particular, in this case, is a real critical skill and is something that I know employers would be happy to know a employee had, that background and skill set.
Corin, yeah, I know that you would have a lot to say about this topic.
It's interesting, and Clayton, I second Dr. Fields' congratulations to you and all that you've accomplished while you were sort of pursuing your studies. One of the things that I'm struck by working at an association is that the experiences, high impact experiences that you've gotten through 4-H and FFA, those actually continue into your professional life, especially through professional associations. So I would encourage anybody on the call to consider looking at the associations that are in your area of specialty. For me, I happen to be with the Institute of Food Technologists. It is an absolutely dynamic and engaged and, dare I say, loving community where the people who are part of it, they just develop these lifelong relationships. And so in the last segment, we were talking about mentorship. I've literally watched people who've developed relationships as students who maintain those relationships all the way through retirement and beyond. And so those rich experiences that you've had as a young person through 4-H and FFA, those continue on, and you should consider your professional associations as a rich source of connection. That didn't answer your question about skills. I do think that networking skills and communication skills are key. You really need to network with purpose and learn. It does matter who you know, it really does. And you need to meet the people that you need to know, and you need to find out who those people are. And usually you can do it by skimming the bylines of the articles in the journals that you are studying. But you really, when somebody says, oh, you should meet so-and-so, you should meet them. And sometimes that means getting on a plane to meet them. I had a mentor once tell me, you need to go to New York and meet this person. And I was like, what? I was a kid from Detroit. I never got on a plane to go meet a person or go see an exhibit. And that was way beyond my worldview. And my mentor was like, no, you need to go and, get connected to this person. And I think that that's an important, in the end, it is still all people, and your people skills matter.
This is Chris Anderson, and again, I would totally agree with the other responses that have been provided to your question. As Dr. Field mentioned, the 4-H program tries to help people, the people that are engaged in the program, see beyond themselves, see the world and the people that are a part of it. And so through the types of experiences that we offer, I would agree also with Corinne, and those connections that you make are important. And it's important, I think, as you build leadership skills, to be aware of different types of leadership styles, to see different leadership styles in action and see the strengths and of the different styles. I think that it's important also to think in terms of being engaged in your community, being civically engaged, but again, with that world mindset, or that mindset that is beyond yourself. So building on those relationships, those connections, which have been talked about so many times already today, is also key. And so one of the things that we try to do through our programs is to help youth see the variety of experiences that can be there. So go with open eyes, go with the mindset that you're here to learn and to see what the different opportunities are. Build on your skill set, but then also be able to apply and think in terms of a broader sector. And I think that the experiences that we try to offer also help. We try to help youth see themselves in the roles. Not only do they see the different agricultural roles that are available, but to also see themselves in one or more of those roles and then pursue it.
This is Tom Hudson of Maryland 4-H. I just wanted to tack on to the mentioning of communication as a skill. One of the things when we talk to employers, when we're developing some of our 4-H agriculture education programs, that employers continually mention is the ability of people, especially people who come from 4-H and FFA, to not just communicate, because everyone needs to communicate well, but to be able to tell the story of agriculture, to talk about the importance of the experiences you've had and communicate them to people with enthusiasm and excitement. And that goes a long way toward getting your foot in the door to opportunities that are out there. If you can convince potential employers or internship opportunity people that you are excited about agriculture and you can convey the importance and impact of agriculture.
Sarah.
I think everybody said everything so well there, so I have very little to add, but I think 4-H and FFA and other organizational experiences really can set you up with a variety of technical skills. I was proud to see one of our 4-HBC alumni in Jessica's video with the young cattlemen. But I was really struck when you were speaking, Corinne, about those opportunities to continue your involvement in professional organizations. And I think that's something that 4-H and FFA really set you up well to do. The leadership and communication skills, I feel often 4-H and FFA graduates are well ahead in those areas and can contribute very positively to those organizations moving forward. And those are also valued as you attempt to enter the job market.
We know that food security is a global problem, but it also exists in our regions of, in Australia and North America as well. Carolina, you've got your hand up. I know that that you have a global focus at the World Food Forum.
Yeah, was that a question, the introduction? Because I was going to ask
No,
a
no, no, no,
different
sorry.
question.
Sorry.
Or was that?
Introducing your question.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So just if I can, I wanted to answer the first and second, so I'm just gonna give a very short answer before I ask my question to the panel. So for the first one, I guess in the World Food Forum, what we try to do is, well, it's a youth-led movement, so we're mostly youth. So that means that we open the doors to individuals who have less work experience. How does it work? Well, it was created with volunteers last year. So most of the volunteers that were actually working as volunteers got, a role this year. So for example, I was a volunteer last year and now I'm in a leadership position of the World Food Forum. Besides that, we are doing mentoring. So I am still quite, I would like to think young, and I'm still, welcoming younger individuals and trying to mentor them, especially women. I have to say, we do have lots of women in the innovation track, and try to give them that confidence to be proactive. And this answers the second question. I think for my interest on volunteers, the skill I would like them to have is being proactive. Speaking with confidence. It's not nice to have someone on your team who's always asking for guidance and like every step of the way. This is normal at the beginning, but we want to create individuals that are confident to speak up and propose their solutions. And for the question I had, and I guess I'm a bit biased, because I come from the classic, bachelor, master's, and internship, and then got the UN, and but I do believe we need to find a way to integrate all of those individuals in the agri-food systems that are not in that, cycle. So thinking again, I'm here in Colombia, in the Pacific, I met this incredible entrepreneur who is creating his company with, making sausages with fish from the Pacific and reducing food waste as we do that. So in the World Food Forum and with our partners, we try to give, a prize to those brilliant entrepreneurs and maybe help them turn their brilliant idea into a successful business model. So I think this is also another gap we need to address, and making sure that youth that doesn't go to university and masters and all of this internship is also heard. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
If I may, Matt, Carolina, thank you so much for saying that, because we did a study of our food science students, and over 30% intended to become entrepreneurs upon graduation. And I do think that for this audience, it isn't always about getting a job. It's also could be about making a job by bringing your own passion and innovation to market as a founder and CEO of your own business. And I think, again, all the way from one end to the other of the food value chain, there's opportunities for entrepreneurship.
We have only a couple more minutes before we have to unfortunately end the panel, but I know we have a question from Wayne. I just would love to be able to get around to everyone on this question. So if we could keep the answers brief, because we only do have a couple of minutes left.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm actually the owner of a small commercial fishing company here in Southeast Australia. We have a very technologically and quite advanced digitised business. We monitor zooplankton, phytoplankton levels, chlorofoam levels in the ocean. All these systems cost tens up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is the future of sustainable commercial fisheries. It's certainly the future of food systems, in my opinion. However, there are a lot of barriers to not just affording this technology, but also utilisation of it, whether we're talking about internet bandwidths in regional areas. And I'm just wondering what the panel would suggest interventions that are needed to allow the greater uptake of this technology amongst youth that don't have access to those resources.
It's a great question. Did that question speak to someone?
Maybe not directly, Wayne, but here in the United States, USDA, NIFA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, is our federal partner for 4-H and extension. And there are some federal grants for technology in agriculture that land-grant institutions can apply for programming in community. So I'm not sure if that type of system exists in other countries, but there are several grants right now available in the United States, and they do encourage partnerships amongst states, but also amongst countries. So there might be some possibility to even partner with another state and another country as well for technology-based agriculture. And there are lots of investments right now in workforce readiness in careers in agriculture and diversifying the industry as far as the employers are concerned and the partners are concerned. So I know there are some investments here in the United States, and there might be similar opportunities in other countries. But again, even if there aren't, definitely encourage you to reach out to partners in the United States to see if there are some collaborative opportunities cross-country.
And that may be partially why the Global Food System Challenge is here, because I think there are a lot of private foundations and philanthropic organizations that support the kinds of programs that you're talking about, especially because you have a really strong value proposition around sustainability, with phytoplankton, zooplankton, or, aquaculture, your whole blue foods movement, right? Those are really big. And whether it's this particular Global Food System Challenge or, Rockefeller, or there's lots of foundations who have made it a part of their mission to fund programs like yours, especially if you're working with Indigenous cultures. And I would encourage you to consider the social enterprise as a model. So it's like a community-based nonprofit where it's a business, but it's not a business like a big corporation. It's a nonprofit where the community comes together to build a business that benefits the whole community and that benefits the environment as well and feeds everybody. So,
Wayne, did you want to name drop your business? Because you didn't mention it before, I don't think. Oh, you're on mute. Just so that everyone can.
Discovery Industries in Australia.
Discovery. Sorry about that. I just wanted to give everyone the opportunity to search you up and appreciate you. Sarah, did you want to contribute? I might just we might move into the final question in a moment, Sarah, but please answer.
I wish I had a complete answer, Wayne, because in Canada, we have much of the same problem in terms of sometimes access to technology and bandwidth, and it's so important for agriculture communities. I can't speak to the internet problem so much, but in terms of technology access as a barrier, I know one thing that we've seen some success with here in British Columbia is food processing incubators through food hubs that would give young entrepreneurs access to rented food processing equipment to give them a chance to try to launch a food product without fully having to purchase all of that equipment themselves. So maybe there's opportunities around expanding that model to different types of technologies that could increase accessibility.
So moving into the final round, we're going to do a lightning round where you guys get 30 to 60 seconds to answer. So we've got, we're going to have all of our panelists, I think, come on while we spotlight everyone. I just wanted to highlight that this forum today, the goal is to feed into the negotiations and then ultimately the Committee for World Food Security later this year on employment and mentorship and the providing feedback from the private sector into how can the private sector and what contribution does the private sector have in food security. So with that in mind, looking at both global food security and regional food security, the issues that we have within our countries and regions, what is it that you would recommend in terms of policy to allow or facilitate the private sector to contribute to food security? I'm going to just go on my screen from left to right. So Chris, you're first up and you didn't get to answer that question before, so I apologize. Would you like to go first?
Certainly. I think that we've kind of thrown out some ideas on this. One is the ability to fund and help fund and support and partner with formal education and informal education, particularly as we try to inspire our youth to address important global issues like food security. And so I think that there is a place for, again, private and public partnerships to come together around these important issues.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Sarah, you're next on my screen.
Sure, thank you. I think it would be a complex policy to address all of the things. It's hard to make a single recommendation. I think that any policy or suite of policies really needs to consider all three legs of the sustainability stool: social, community, economic, and environmental. A good place to start, though, might be, I think, that education piece, so that young people can consider careers in agriculture and food systems. To make that possible, there needs to be community engagement to create awareness of those opportunities and help prepare youth with the skills they need to be successful in the field. So that could be through organizations like all of those that were highlighted today, or it could also be through public education and opportunities to engage with the food system at school.
And obviously the connection between young people and sustainability is very obvious in that we have an aging farmer workforce and the need to continue that. Corin, you're next on my screen. It would be love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a sort of curveball, Matt. I actually think at the policy level, what we need is data interoperability. I think you need to be able to take giant data sets and analyze them. And if you don't have data that can be analyzed from farm to farm, species to species, grocery store to grocery store, or whatever, whether it be food traceability data or farm productivity data or toxicology data, the whole thing. There needs to be interoperability so that everybody can share their data and have there be a sort of open source, sort of massive intelligence project.
You may have cut out there a moment with the internet, but I think it's a really good point. And as we discussed earlier, maybe young people are on the forefront of the data work as well. Dr. Fields, you're next on my screen.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having us. And want to thank Tom and Cheryl again for joining as well, who are part of the Maryland 4-H team, and they're joined with us today. 4-H has a tagline nationally that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. So I would really remind us to make sure that we are removing barriers for all youth to be able to experience agricultural literacy and see themselves represented in the careers of agriculture. And 4-H, I feel, not to just brag on our program, but we are the largest youth development organization across the globe. And we have these connections. We talked about networks and relationships, and being able to connect a young person to a career all over the globe just through their 4-H experience is such a powerful tool. So expanding opportunities for education and for internships and hands-on learning is what we would continue to advocate for in the out-of-school time space.
Thank you. And I've been informed, I haven't been monitoring the participants, but we have Jodie Redcliffe, who I'm told is an Australian, who is the head of Nuffield Australia, who we got to speak from one of their graduates. So it's great to have you here today. And if you wanted to jump in at the end and answer the question as well, I'm sure you have some really cool insights. Beth, you're next on my screen. Would you like to answer the question?
Sure, thanks, Matt. And just building off of what she just said with the 4-H program, in addition to that, I take the approach that all of us are connected to ag, right? I mean, if you're eating, you like to eat, we have to eat. Everybody's connected to agriculture. And so we've got to have a multi-approach to be able to reach different people, to not just, to spark their interest. That's what we do in 4-H. And in the United States, that means support of the Farm Bill, because that's where cooperative extension, which is the house of our 4-H program, it lives under that. And if there's not support funds for the Farm Bill and for cooperative extension, that hurts us nationwide to be able to reach people, young people in all different corners that, formal education may or may not be able to come through in ag education.
Thank you so much. And Morgan, you're next on my screen.
Great. Well, I think that the panel today and the voices we've heard from show that all of the different pieces to empower and support young people exist. We know that there are folks who are working at that initial catchment time to get a student interested and understand that this is an available field for them, that there are folks who are going to support those students through their learning process, and that there are internships and professional opportunities available for young professionals in food and agriculture. I think the policy, in my mind, looking at the landscape that would have a lot of power is having one dedicated, capacitated with funding, with staff, space where government, where private industry, and where the nonprofit and non-governmental sector could actually come together to think of the best ways to support and connect resources for that pipeline that we're all looking to build.
We did have a bit of a discussion in the first panel about connecting all of these different young people supporting mechanisms, and that's definitely one area. Claire, you're next.
Thanks, Matt. I totally agree, Morgan. I think it is a pipeline. One aspect of the pipeline I'm going to talk about is actually developing and legislating the labour laws. I am working in on-farm. We do attract youth to farms, which is great, but actually retaining them, we do have some issues with around the work conditions. Some statistics from 2019 here in Australia was we had 21% of the workplace fatalities in agriculture, with only 2% of our population working in agriculture. Why would you work in agriculture? Like, it's just we really need to work on that, and with that needs to be the living conditions, wages, income, to make sure that it is, because again, in Australia, we're competing with the mining industry. So we need to make sure that we are, in actually on the level playing field. And so that occupational health and safety is a big aspect. And there's a quote I picked up from Richard Branson once, and it just said, train people well enough that they can leave and treat them well enough they don't want to. And I think that's something that we need to really consider here right now. Thank you.
That was a great point, Claire. And farming is a tough business in terms of making a profit enough to support workers, and we know it's a topical issue, especially when it comes to like the Pacific Labour Mobility Scheme as well. So I think it's a really interesting point in the Australian context as well. Jessica, you're next on my screen.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I would just echo the previous thoughts shared surrounding funding. I think that's one of the barriers that we're seeing to growth, whether, today we've heard so many great opportunities, but do we have staffing capacity or, the funding to have those additional travel opportunities, for example, or getting them to these different events or supporting that. So I would definitely echo that as one of the barriers that we see.
Awesome. I just want to give anyone else in the audience, because I know we've got some amazing guests, the opportunity to answer this final question. I actually can't see everyone, but does anyone want to just unmute themselves and answer that same question? How do we address food security through youth employment and skills? I know we have some amazing people online, but I'll give you a couple more seconds. If we don't have any more answers, I think we have just about run out of time then. Anyway, so thank you so much to all of our panelists. It's been really insightful. I'm looking forward to connecting with you afterwards. So I'm gonna find you all online somehow. I'm really looking forward to continuing the discussion. I hope other people find the way to connect with your organizations and institutions as well. We have a closing comments and remarks from Jennifer Krall from Bayer, who is sponsoring our event today. So if I want to give you the floor. Oh, there you are. Hi.
I'm here. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. And it's so great to see so many familiar faces, and then see in the chat a lot of Youth Ag Summit alumni and other partners of BEAR that are here. And I've really enjoyed the conversation. So as Matt said, I'm Jennifer Krall. I do lead BEAR's Growers Engagement and Ag Chain Activation team. We're responsible for farmer advocates, next gen engagement, and the animal feed value chain partnerships. I want to give a special shout out to Reagan Rowland, our intern who started with us. She's in week 2 of her internship, a student at Purdue University in Ohio. So really glad to have you join us, Reagan, and glad to have you on the team as well. So on behalf of the entire private sector mechanism, we are going to encourage you all to engage in CFS. I was glad to see some questions in the chat about how to do that. I leave that up to Robin and her amazing team over at Emerging Ag to guide you through that process. But it's open to everything, whether it's state, civil society, research, or private sector. We all need to come together to advance global food security. And so we really hope you'll consider joining that as a partner. At BEAR, as many of you know on this call, we have long promoted youth engagement in agriculture. Since 2013, we have provided global young advocates with opportunities to learn and network and engage through our Youth Ag Summit. And last year, we went another step further to make this a more continuous and purposeful engagement with the Next Gen Ag Impact Network, or ENGINE, which really is intended to bring to life that UN Sustainable Development Goal 17, which is partnerships for the goals. So we are really excited about that coalition. We have 17 members of that coalition, including the fine folks at Nuffield. We're really glad to have you as part of that group. So the coalition and its partners co-create to bring opportunities to young people and match their needs. And we try to do that across sectors. So youth movements, associations, NGOs, think tanks, farm organizations, et cetera, et cetera. And to give you one example of some great results happening so far is we did a training on how to engage at the UN. It was an open call. We had some great results. Again, thank you to Robin and Emerging Ag for your partnership there. And we kind of said, what's going to happen from that? And from that training, we saw 16 young people that raised their hands and they said, I want to be involved in CFS. I want to engage at the PSM. And I think it takes a special type of person to do that. So thank you if anyone here has joined that call to arms and engaged. So for our purposes of work and our purposes here today, I do hope the guidelines that will put a strong emphasis on the practical engagements that we need. And I really appreciated the last lightning round of comments of real practical engagements. But it's really just a start. And we really need to strengthen our partnerships. We need to strengthen and continue sharing experiences and learning from each other. And really, I think this concept of coordination, whether it's our work or bringing our efforts together, I think that's really key and important to see success in this space. I do want to thank everyone for this opportunity and appreciate everyone that made the event possible. First, Mr. Armstrong, thank you for your skills and talents in leading us through this session and discussion today. We appreciate Chairman Ferrero, CFS Secretary Hagedorn, and the Ambassador of Switzerland for the guidance on CFS on this important topic. We were gifted to hear from so many amazing leaders and esteemed panelists. Great and rich conversation today. The case studies were inspiring, conversation was robust, and it was a pleasure to have you all join us today. And I do wish you best of luck with your work on the ground. So the global roundtable, where the culmination of all these regional roundtables is going to take place tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll let you do all the deviations for various time zones, whether that means staying up very late or waking up nice and early. Leave that up to you, but they'll be focusing on the outcomes from all the regional dialogues and determining a path forward. It was a pleasure to have you all join us today and do wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for joining.